up, everybody? You got me and Ant on real quick today. Today, I made a controversial post about the Kirk Franklin paradox. This is a theory. This is one of my work. It's like a theory I've been having for years about why gospel music ain't what it used to be, but also why now R&B ain't what it used to be. So it's called the Kirk Franklin paradox because basically Kirk Franklin destroyed the time continuum. You ever watch like Back to the Future where they like, yeah, you're not supposed to see yourself in the future. It's gonna mess everything up. Or if they like, if this thing happens, it's gonna mess up how the rest of history goes. It's kind of like that, but like with music. So in order to lay out the whole thing, I want to take everybody back to the beginning because this all matters. I don't know if you guys know, but the real king of rock and roll is a young lady named Sister Rosetta Thorpe. And Sister Rosetta Thorpe she came out, she was around the 30s and the 40s. She was a huge gospel artist, amazing guitar player, but you could catch her in church on Sundays, but you could catch her in the club on Saturdays. And they said the people that would come see her in the club, you would see Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry. And if you watch any of Rosetta Thorpe's videos, I tell y'all to, go to YouTube, you'll hear Chuck Berry in there. You'll hear the Little Richard. You hear like where Elvis, you hear all of that in her. But I start with her just to give you basically a starting point of the musical timeline. This is what I'm using as a starting point of the musical timeline. Back then, gospel music, and this is why she could play in the club on Saturday and then play in the church on Sunday, right? Gospel music drove what happened in the clubs. Gospel music drove what happened, secularly. So basically, whatever gospel was doing, secular music was going to be the worldly version of gospel music, right? It was going to be the worldly version of gospel music. So you had Sister Rosetta Thorpe do it. If you go back and listen, gospel music sounds very similar to that. Then you go on to the blues, right? You go to the blues, you go to church on Sunday, the blues, the groups, we call them quartet now, but quartet groups, like the Williams Brothers, all those old groups, Mighty Clouds of Joy and all that stuff, it sounded like the blues of its day. And then you keep on going all the way down the line. We get down to, let's get to the 80s. Let's jump to the 80s to Andre Crouch, Walter Hawkins, what's my man? James Cleveland, like all the greats that we know, right? Even Aretha Franklin at the time. You go and you listen, everything they was doing in the church drove and DJ Rogers, I can't forget DJ Rogers. Everything they was doing in the church drove what was happening secularly. So for almost every gospel record you can go listen to back then, you could probably find a secular record that was counterpoint. You could tell this record came from this record. You can tell this rock and roll record came from this gospel record. All the way down to even, I don't know if y'all remember House Party 2, and there was a song that Raphael Sadiq had. I don't know what you come to do. I come to clap my. It's a gospel song, right? So that's a gospel song. So it's the same thing, right? Like they're taking gospel, or bits of gospel are influencing what happens in the secular world. Now let's get down to our generation, right? Like we get down to Jodeci. Who's Jodeci's producer? Devontae Swing. Who was Devontae? Church boy. Right? Church boy, piano player. Tank, church boy, piano player. Like you think almost all those groups back then.
Drew Hill.
You had a bunch of church boys and one of them played piano. And they ended up producing a record. So it was kind of like they had that gospel vibe to there. And then you even think, and like I said, just to do a quick A1 comparison, just so you know how much it happened, like Commission. If you listen to Commission harmonies and the way they sing together, you're gonna hear a lot of that in Jodeci. And then Shep Crawford, who was a big producer of the 2000s, Shep was heavily influenced by Commission. So if you listen to Montel Jordan's ballads, you hear them singing Commission harmonies, right? And then you can go Commission goes all the way from Jodeci, Drew Hill to Next. You can hear hints of Commission and Fred Hammond in the way they sing their harmonies, right? Then you go to like the Clark sisters. And the Clark sisters, they gave us SWV because you listen to Clark sisters and you listen to SWV in them harmonies, they can go hand in hand, right?
Escape.
Yeah, Escape. They gave us Escape. Listen to Faith Evans. That's Karen Clark, R&B world. You understand what I'm saying? Like those tones, all those things, they came from gospel. Even the Winans, the Winans and BB. Like if you A B a record sometimes with Whitney Houston and CC or BB, which one is the girl?
CC.
Yeah, they sound like damn near identical, right?
Yeah.
So it's that same thing. This whole time you had the counterparts, and like I say, you even listen to like Jodeci and the stuff that they sing, and if you take the singing off of it, you can hear church chords. Like take the hardcore drums off of it, strip it down to just the instrumentation, and it's like, oh, this is like gospel changes. These is church record changes, right? So then enter Kirk Franklin in around, was it like 1998?
98, 97, 99.
97, 98. Yeah, it's 97, 98, 99 when Stomp started. And Melodies from Heaven. Wait, because even before him, we had John P. Key. And John P. Key was the first, to me, he was kind of like Kirk Franklin, but he didn't go all the way there with it, right? Like John P. Key had real contemporary sounding gospel music, but it was clear it was gospel music, right? It was hip hop infused, it was funky, but it still was very, very clear that it was gospel music. So enter Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin changes everything. And look, when I say this, I want people to understand. I'm not hating on Kirk Franklin. I'm not saying that Kirk Franklin did this on purpose or he had malice. You know what I mean? But I'm saying it was, these things are just became a consequence of what Kirk did. Because like you said on the post, and you like, well, Kirk had a bunch of songs that we love. He had a bunch of classics, which is true. And I actually like Kirk Franklin and I like his music. I just don't like what his music did to gospel and R&B. So now let's get to it. Let's get to the Kirk Franklin paradox. As I laid out to you all these years, like Beck Don said, he said Aretha Franklin, the Isley Brothers, the Womack Brothers, from church to the secular world, literally just to show you how it always boom, boom, boom. Al Green going back and forth to church. So for so long, gospel music influenced secular music, but not just the kind of music we made. It influenced the way your singers sang, right? It influenced the way they approached records. It influenced the way R&B would change throughout the years, because whenever gospel music changed, R&B would change. So basically, for years and years, gospel music pushed R&B forward. Then when Kirk Franklin came, he reversed it. Kirk Franklin took all of his cues from the club, hip hop, R&B. So he's taking all his cues from the club, hip hop, and R&B. After he does it, of course, it's successful. It's huge. You get the young people back into it. Gets the young people into the church. They vibing. But now what happens? Years down the line, as we go, as it continues to see gospel music start to go further and further into taking its cues from secular music. Now that gospel music is continually taking its cues from secular R&B and hip hop, what happens? Musically, what's pushing R&B forward now? Because musically, you don't have gospel pushing R&B forward. And now what happens? What also happens because you don't have R&B pushing forward? You don't have singers taking their cues from gospel singers anymore, which was also the thing that pushed R&B forward. So now the influences are like reversed. Now the people in church influences are R&B people. So now the people that's in church are trying to sing like Jodeci. You know what I'm saying? Like all the church songs, they're trying to sing like Beyonce now. Whereas Beyonce got a lot of her stuff from the Clark system. But now like everybody's taking their cues from that.
Remixing their songs to gospel songs.
Remixing the songs to gospel songs, and just, like I said, literally changing the style to where gospel, as much as you can, gospel sounds exactly like what's on secular radio. Like there's almost no discernible difference. To the point where they call in songs of this trap gospel. And I'm like, that's that don't even make sense because trap is really selling drugs. Like it's selling drugs gospel. You know what I'm saying? But I know they're using it in the form of music, trap music, but the trap styling, what it comes from, right? So that just shows you where, think about it. If you think about it, that was 98. And I went and like I really did my research on this, y'all. I promise you I'm not tripping. Around 2006 was like the last year of like really good, solid, classic R&B albums that like, you know what I'm saying, that we can go back to, that people still go back and listen to today.
So, do you think he's also the downfall of R&B male groups
Yes,
and
like
female groups?
I think he's the downfall of all of that because everything started. So basically, it's just like Doctor Strange, right? Once he did that, everything starts folding on itself. You know what I'm saying? Because once that happened, people in gospel, they stopped doing groups too. You know what I mean? Like it came a bunch of solo artists. Everybody started trying to be like, you know, R. Kelly, Aaron Hall. And, you know what I'm saying? Like everybody wanted to be solo artists, so it wasn't a bunch of groups no more. Commission broke up. Wine is split up. You know what I mean? Like all of the groups kind of split up. So even the female groups split up. I think on one of the few you had like Trendy 5-7 and Mary Mary. But then after they, you know, like that kind of was it. But before that, remember you would have a plethora of groups. Like you can go down the line. My granddaddy had tapes and tapes and tapes of male groups, tapes and tapes and tapes of female groups. You know what I'm saying? But then like once Kirk Franklin did that and everything kind of started folding on itself, it was like, oh, they over there solo male artists, so we're gonna be solo male artists because I want to be like Usher. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be like Mighty Clouds of Joy no more. I want to be like Usher. But even so now the place, which was gospel music, the place where we used to get all of our like chops, the place where we used to get our chords and steal our style from, they stealing their style from where we trying to steal our style from. So now what do you do? What's pushing the culture forward on both ends? Because he did that to gospel music. Now you see how adversely it affects R&B music. Make sense?
That makes a lot of sense now that you broke it down like that. Because when you first put it and said he destroyed gospel music, I'm like, whoa there. Like, how is that possible when everyone loved Kirk Franklin? We all sung Melodies from Heaven and all these songs. But the way you just broke it down now makes total sense the way you look, how you view it now.
Yeah. And so that's why I said I wanted to explain, because every time I say that, people be like, what? I think a lot of people have the same reaction you do. You know what I mean? And I was like, no, like, because again, I dig his work. I respect it. He's dope. And he did, like you said, he brought gospel into like the new millennium. You know what I'm saying?
So you also agreed that he kind of had to do that to bring the young folks into church. Because
Kinda, but I don't think he had to. So for me, he didn't have to go all the way with it, because like I said before that, I think John P. Key was doing a great job at it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like John P. Key was doing a great job, like of getting young kids back in it, but things feeling real choiry, real gospel-y. You know what I'm saying? But then you think of everything that happens after Kirk Franklin, you get like the Ty Tribbetts, and you get, you know what I'm saying? Like you get all these spinoffs that's like, oh, we're gonna be even a little bit more secular sounding than Kirk. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna take it, we're gonna push it even a little further. So then when you get that, now, like I said, now we looking at R&B, we looking around like, okay, so these singers, they ain't getting influenced by gospel singers no more. You know what I'm saying? Like,
two comments real quick. I see Angela saying the turning point was Stomp because they used to play that in clubs. I definitely do remember hearing that a couple times, and it would catch us off guard, but then we was like, okay, that song kind of bangs, so we gonna allow this to happen. And then Abdullah just said, God brings you into church.
well, I think for young people, and I know it's probably taboo to say, like, entertainment brings young people into church. God keeps them there. To me, I think, in my opinion, I think somebody goes to church, they see the choirs jamming, they see that, you know, they feel like they've been embraced, and then the preacher gets up and the preacher might say something that touches them. I think that's the thing that keeps them there. You know, because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't always make sure that churches had choirs. We wouldn't always try to get the dopest musicians. They do that. Churches do that because they know, like, yo, if our music department is popping, we'll get the young people in here. We can get the young people and we can keep them.
I agree with that.
And then because then Stomp even again like so Stomp gives us Kanye West Jesus Walks. Now that's why Jesus Walks is in the club, and you don't feel nothing about it now. You know what I mean?
And then Marvin Gilbert said, a lot of people forget that church music is the foundation of black music, all the way back to slavery.
Yeah. So like that's what I mean. Like so it's literally gospel is our foundation. So then when our foundation gets rattled by not having those people who continue to push gospel forward, again, like I said, once they start taking their cue, because think about it, gospel is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old. At the time Kirk Franklin did that, hip hop was probably about 40 years old. Mm-hmm. So gospel had like hundreds of years and stuff to pull from, and then hip hop had about 40. So then once we start pulling from only 40 years and you start losing that 400 years that we was pulling from, I think that's when things change. Marvin said to me, Take Six first bought a more contemporary sound. Again, Marvin, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't saying that he was the first because I think Take Six bought a contemporary sound.
He just took it over.
Yeah, I think he just took it way to another place because I think John P. Key, because literally I remember going to a John P. Key concert at Magic Mountain and it was popping like a Usher concert in regards to like seeing the homies from school, seeing the girls that went to my school. You know what I mean? Like the people who was there, it was like, it did not feel like just a gospel concert. It felt like just a popping concert, but it was, it was gospel records.
I even remember hearing Stump on like 92.3 and stuff like that. Also, like
and Power 106.
That became a very popular, I guess you could say, switch. Like that was the first time I remember hearing church music on a regular radio station like that. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
And also, look, and let me say this too, because I don't want people to think I'm saying that, he was the first gospel artist to have like a crossover record like that, because we know the Clark Sisters, You Are the Sunshine was on regular radio too. It was on hip hop radio. You know what I'm saying? So, oh yeah, he said hip hop was barely 20 years old when Kirk came out. That's right. Yeah, because it was 90 something. But you understand what I'm saying? So he wasn't the first.
Your wife comment, dog.
Hey, that's real. Hey, I would be like so uncomfortable when people would freak to Stomp. Like,
you had a lot of bunch of dudes from 60s up in there, see walking and Stomp like, what's going on right now?
Stomp.
Yeah, that's crazy, dog.
Kirk wasn't the first. This is from Don. Kirk wasn't the first. Kirk was the biggest on the mainstream level. I want to say when he fell off the stage at one time, he was in Memphis, I think, performing that record. Yeah, and that's what I mean. He wasn't the first, but I think he did it in a way, like, for example, Aretha Franklin had a record that crossed over, but you clearly knew it was a gospel record. The Clark Sisters had that record that crossed over because they took a Stevie Wonder drum beat, but you still knew that was a gospel record. Stomp, it literally played in a rotation with all the rest of the records, and it felt like the rest of the records. I think that's the first time that happened, where Stomp was like played on Power 106 and 92.3 to beat. And it didn't feel weird. You didn't feel like, oh, this is a church. Like literally, it could come on right after West Side Connection, and it was like, and it has.
It was just part of the flow.
It was just part of the flow. You know what I mean? So, so that's why I wanted to get on this point. I know a few people. I have said this to people for years, and they kept saying, "Yo, I need to hear this rant." Because I told Angela about it years ago. She was like, "Yo, people need to hear this." She said, "Because it actually makes a lot of sense."
No, it definitely does. And you guys are right. I'm a huge Kirk Franklin fan. I was just, that wording that you put, I was like, okay, is this one of them get off my lawn situations? Is this one of them the Warriors fucked up basketball? Like, I was like, where are we going with this? My bad, not to be using profanity right now. I'm talking about church. My bad. But I was like, where are we going with this? So I had to hear that explanation.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, that's what it is. That's BB and CC1. You right. I remember this too, Abdullah. Lost Without You was on regular radio too. Because if you sing it a certain way, Rance Allen had a song called I'm yours. I belong to you. If you listen to "I Belong to You" by Rance Allen and BB and CC Lost Without You, if you listen to them in the context of you not listening to a gospel station, you would think they're like love songs, like they talking to a mate. So you right about that. That absolutely happened. Another thing, I think when mainstream started calling gospel inspirational, it was over. Boom! Hey, yo, that's a huge point. No Jesus being said. Kanye was revolutionary in that aspect that he actually said Jesus. Hey man, for real, I can't tell you when I've seen gospel song in 15 years with Jesus in the title. True, BB and CC was borderline. Much of their music came off as gospel. As much as their solo projects, they love songs. Yeah. Once they stopped saying Jesus or God, it was rap. Hey man, that's a good call out. Once they start saying inspirational, not gospel, because even and you listen to the inspirational space, again, a lot of the stuff now that you hear, it's like almost folk music. That ain't ours. I mean, it is essentially, but like I'm talking about in the way that gritty Delta, because our gospel music was based on that gritty Delta down south,
Mm-hmm.
Music, and that was our foundation. And I feel like we kind of lost some of that foundation when Kirk came in. And again, kudos to Kirk because, like I said, Kirk found out how to bring the youth really, really in because people not only was hearing at the clubs, but people were singing stuff at the church and they had routines to it in the choir stand. I remember all of that. You know what I mean?
And like Angela said, there's a lot of gospel songs that I listen to and they don't mention Jesus or God. And I'm like, hey, low key, this could be a fire R&B song. Like, you have no idea what they're talking about. You could interpret it any way you want to because they're not mentioning God or Jesus.
Right. Right. And I think some of it is like, because so much of gospel stuff is steeped in tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was kind of good that Kirk broke it out of that, where it's so steeped in tradition that it was getting stale. But like I said, he went so far, I think the effects, it was kind of almost like it was an overcorrection. You know what I'm saying? Marvin said, I grew up during the Mighty Clouds of Joy, Five Blind Boys area. He going back. He said, so imagine the uproar when they made the Midnight Hour with Roger. Yeah. And hey, I don't know what happened to Mass Fire, bro. And Mass Fire albums used to be the fire. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sam said, like what they did with Music Soul Child song Love. I'm not gonna lie, the first time I heard that song, I was like, are they saying Lord? Like, I was like, hold on, I'm confused. What is this? And then when they finally did the church version of it, I was like, that was easy. You could
yeah.
easily.
Well, the funny thing is, you could almost not even change the words of love. You
At
didn't have
all,
to make
period.
it go. You could just sing it in that context. And that's what I mean.
Yep.
Like Kirk had songs where if you put them in a certain context, it could really just not be a gospel record, depending
At
on
all.
like if I heard it in the club, I wouldn't think this was a gospel record. But if I'm hearing it on 107.9 Sunday morning, then I'll think it's a gospel song because it's in that mix and it's in that rotation. You know what I'm saying? Let's not forget Sounds of Blackness. Hey, so Mark, so this is what I'm gonna say about Sounds of Blackness. Because they were one of the kind of the beginning of the inspirational title being thrown around. But Sounds of Blackness sounded very, very churchy. They still had a very, very choir sound. Even with their lead singer. Oh, I'm sorry, her name is slipping my mind right now. But even with the lead singers, everything was still really, really churchy. But they had the production of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. So they had like almost like they were singing over Janet Jackson tracks. They were putting a choir on Janet Jackson tracks. Love, you right, Abdullah, it is a gospel melody. Way too interchangeable. What y'all know about that BET gospel commercial with saying who the hell left the gate open? You taking it all the way back. Ann Nesby. Thank you, Martin. Yes, Ann Nesby. I want to make sure I say her name. Thank you, sir. Yeah, Ann Nesby sounds really, really gospel. So even though they were singing over contemporary tracks like, Be Optimistic, which is one of my all-time favorite records. I love Be Optimistic. It still felt churchy, right? And I think when you listen to the Kirk record, because somebody brought up because Kirk has some very churchy records. Just so y'all know, like some people probably don't know, but you like Silver and Gold. So he had records like the Silver and Gold record, and there's an era where he had like a lot of dope ballads. You know what I mean? So he still had those records. But the records that got super big, And the records that other gospel people start biting weren't those. The ones they start biting was like the Stomps. And I remember the first time I heard Shackles. Again, love Shackles by Mary Mary.
Mary.
Love Shackles. But I remember the first time I heard Shackles, I was like, this is DJ Quick Track. Like they're singing on a DJ Quick Track. They're doing a gospel record over some DJ Quick drums. Because if you take them off of that and take the piano off of it, that's a straight DJ Quick rhythmalism record. And again, I loved it, but it was more a part of that transformation of, you know what I'm saying, of gospel music not sounding like gospel anymore. So, hey man, y'all, I like y'all kicking in on the comments too. I didn't even expect that, but
they was waiting for this.
Yeah,
they was waiting for your explanation, bro.
Look,
I think you just messed some people's heads up with this.
Oh, I meant to tag Kid. Let me tag him because he said he thinks money messed it up. And I'm like, I don't think it was money. I don't think it was money. I think it was more of this on the musical side, like on the business side, maybe, but on the creative side, I don't think so. But I'm gonna talk to. I'm probably gonna get it again because I want to get some pastors on to talk about it with me too. You know what I'm saying? Like have a round table with some pastors. Baby Dub.
You got to get an old pastor and a young pastor though.
Yeah.
You just gotta let them fight over this.
I still want to know the genre, sounds, and blackness is. I think they are the beginning of that inspirational. You know what I mean? I think they was like inspirational because it was gospel, but over like super contemporary. Baby Dove, shout out to Warren on Mary Mary's production. He actually worked with Quick too. Like he had worked with Quick a lot as a youngster. I think if someone came out with a record like that now, they would win. You mean like with a mass choir type joint? I do too. I think if somebody got like a mass choir and went totally in with that live church sound, like "Thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me," "Just Can't Stop Praising His Name," like those type records. I think if somebody came out with a gospel record like that now, I think it would smash. Because now it's like a void for it.
There's a huge group that's out right now, and I cannot think of the name of them for the life of me right now. That Kirk Franklin. Oh my God. Let me bring up YouTube real quick because I have it on here. But I'm wondering if they're considered inspirational and not gospel then. I'm trying to bring it up right now.
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself because I'm about to scream LaRonda name.
Okay.
LJ! What's the name of that new group that's out right now? Maverick City Music.
Yeah, somebody said Maverick City.
Yeah. So what genre are they? Are they inspirational?
Yeah, but I think that feels a little more like old school gospel. You know what I'm saying? I think Maverick City feels a little more. He didn't mute himself at all.
Oh, I didn't mute myself. I swear to God, I pressed the mute button on my computer.
He that dude in the meetings.
You know what? I just muted your sound. That's all I
That's
did.
funny.
My bad.
Ricky Dillard. We say Ricky Dillard and New G has some good new choir music. It's funny too because like everybody's naming Maverick City. CCM and New Age gospel. I myself, mind you, I'm not a big fan of CCM. You know what I mean? Like I said, I want some old "Just Can't Stop Praising His Name." I want some old "Thank You, Lord, for all you've done for me." You know what I'm saying? I want some old Rance Allen.
You want to cry? You want to hear songs that's about to make you cry, not make you.
No, because a lot like "Thank You for all you've done for me" was a up tempo. Like Jesus is real. Like Jesus is real. Thank you for all you've done for me. Yeah, that's the other thing. They didn't even take the choirs up to church. A lot of choirs literally just got a praise team where it's like the 4 best singers. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no more choir. They're like we only had 4 or 5 best singers, and that's it.
Y'all better leave Maverick City and Kirk Franklin. You mean alone, or leave them alone, or what do you mean leave them?
Yeah, I think she said we better leave them alone.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she said I mean Maverick City is CCM New Age. Yeah, but like I said, to me they the closest to what I'm talking about. But I think as a whole, I don't think we really have that. As a whole, I don't think we have. you know,
LaRonda,
LaRonda, no.
LaRonda hates praise dancers, dog.
Hey, I don't have a problem with praise. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm gonna be nice. I've always said this: if you wanted a hit song, throw a choir on it. But if you want a super duper hit, throw a choir with kids in it. All right, Trick Daddy, Gucci Mane, Kanye West.
Like, I could look at praise dancers sometimes and be like, "Oh, okay, that was dope." But then sometimes they look like Stewart from what's the name of that? Not A Living Color, but the white version of it.
Oh, Mad TV.
Mad TV. Yeah, Stewart, look what I could do. And I'd be like, "Oh, sit your kid down. Like, this ain't the time for all that."
Me too. I can't stand it. Yeah, like again, like I said, I want to get that old churchy. You know, I want her to sound like she got chubby underarms. Like I want her to sound like these big when she's singing. You know what I'm saying? I want him to sound like you gotta give him a big piece of fried chicken after the concert when he's singing. You know what I'm saying? Portia said, I love CCM, but I went to white Christian college. Yeah. Look, because sometimes when I would play in certain churches, I would sub a lot for different drummers at different churches. And the CCM, I'll be like, yo, this stuff is real. It ain't what I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? It ain't what I'm used to. And you know what I have a problem with in CCM? The lack of soul. And I mean soul in a sense of like the sound that's used, like in the way the guitar's played on it, the way the bass is played, the way the keys are played. You know what I'm saying? We low key sound. Oh, well, that's because we was here for it all sound. But I do think there was a time where because the choir music was so good, kids wanted to sing those songs in church on Sunday, so the church was full on Sundays, and also like the worship was crazy, and it was like competitive too. Like you would go to other churches and y'all would lightweight try to out-sing each other, and I think a lot of that's missing. I want to see one of these secular singers come back home like Eddie Kane, baby doll.
Why you said the praise dancers look like Sting though? Oh my god!
Right, hey man, I told y'all I'm not talking about praise dancers. I got 2 of them on my page, so I'm not going to be talking about praise dancers, man. I'm talking about this gospel music and the difference between CCM and old town gospel and well, because like for example, Can Spirituals were like a quartet group, but they were a quartet group that had some stuff that felt a little updated. Stop it, Aunt, damn it. But you know what I'm saying? So again, like I said, I think there's elements that gospel music is kind of missing, and I think it's evident in the way people talk about gospel music and the way people sing gospel music, even when you're in the church. She said, "Correction, I love black people singing in CCM."
How soon do you think we'll see "You Won't Lose My Soul" as a praise dance in church?
Oh, it's coming this Sunday, nigga.
All right, just making
It's
sure.
coming this Sunday. I'm not a fan of all CCM music. Them same four chords get boring, and lyrics like testimony, so it's more chanting and singing.
What is
praise
CCM?
dance is a hard hell no. Miss me with the gloves and the flag, ma'am. CCM is Christian contemporary music. It's the stuff you hear at a lot of the big, I guess you would say the big white churches, where it's kind of like gospel with like drum toms, doom, 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 and the piano like boom, boom, boom. It's like it's real like it's hard to explain, but it's kind of like it's a real formulaic style of gospel music, but it's huge right now. It's huge right now.
Is it like those videos we be seeing of them white people singing on stage?
No, it's not that bad. Hillsong, perfect example. Hillsong is a perfect example. Thank you, Theo. Yeah, Hillsong, Amy Grant, that's like the original CCM. Sam Hogan, it's only been 30 years. I'm sure that my ship itself, even in my heyday, I consider myself part of harmony as opposed to lead. I know my limits. White youth pastors, it's folky rock alternative. I used to think it was a Christian rock concert. That's a good way to go. So that's what CCM is, and that's what it kind of sounds like Christian rock. Also, where the Hammond organ players at? I can play a little bit. This old mother at my church in Memphis be killing on the organ. Hey, so that's another thing. Again, and this is what I was talking about in my other post when I was talking about we missing, I miss bridges, I miss clever lyrics. So in that other post, I made mention of this, Don, tap water gospel. I hate y'all, man. I hate y'all. This is something that I made note to was that a lot of people don't play anymore. So even a lot of the gospel producers aren't musicians. So a lot of the musicality and the musicianship ain't there the way it used to be, and that even spills over into R&B production and hip hop production. I was like, a lot of these guys are musicians, so they don't value chord changes, key changes, modulations, and all the nuanced things that musicians do. They don't value them the same when they're making music. So I think that's one of the things that's missing from a soul standpoint. And even when you do play in church now, Don, a lot of churches don't even have real pianos. They have keyboards. A lot of churches don't have real organs anymore. They have keyboards. So since the churches don't even have the organs, where you gonna get those musicians from that's playing the organ now? You know what I'm saying? Where you gonna get those musicians that's playing a real piano now because there's keyboards. So there's even a difference in the way that is and the way things are set up in that manner. So it's kind of hard to cultivate new dope black musicians where they're not regarded in that manner in a lot of the churches anymore. That's why folks in the South love Pimp C. He stayed using the Hammond on his record. That's why UGK gave him churchy songs that record. Yeah, well, even if you think about the record they had with even though it was a Willie Hutch sample, the record that UGK had with Outkast sounds like it feel like a church record. Like you know what I mean? Like that.
I choose you.
Yeah, I choose you. Yeah, like it's real churchy. I think it needs to be a difference between gospel music and church music. There's a lot of music we sing in church that has little to no gospel in it. I agree with that. D'Angelo album was no to that. 100%. You talking about that last album, Abdullah, from the Vanguard? If that's what you're talking about, I agree 100% because it had really the guitars playing a bunch of quartet stuff, had a whole lot of Hammond B3 organ, and it had a whole lot of those foundational gospel things that he was doing and playing. Everybody's making music with their computer. So I said that, Marvin. I said I think one of the things that's missing is musicians literally sitting around together and coming up with the records and playing. Because when you have one person at a computer making the music, you have that one person's perspective musically. You have that one person's point of view musically. But when you have, and I noticed this myself from working on this last Wild Bunch record, we had all got our own studios. Just a quick story. We had all got our own studios. Everybody got their own studios. So it was easy for me to do the drums and send it to Daniel, and Daniel do the keyboards at his house, then send it to our bass player, and he do the bass at his studio because we literally all have our own studios now, right? But that's not the same as when we all came to my crib and just sat in here together and was coming up with grooves and coming up with stuff together, because that's when you get, I think, the soul of everyone on the record. That's when you get literally a piece of everyone's creativity. It ends up laying on that record. And you think about, outside of gospel, you think about going back to the Parliament and Funkadelic days, with Swing Down, Sweet Cherry Stop, Let Me Ride, and all those records. Those records felt like that because you had all those different personalities, and the pieces of personalities were on those records. People left a piece of themselves on those records, even if it was just singing background or, because all of those things added a certain texture. It added a layer that you don't have if it's one person sitting at a computer laying it out. Like those little small mistakes that you hear the guitar player do because he's not playing just a loop. The guitar player is playing the whole thing down, so it's not exactly the same. A lot of times, when we're doing production, we'd be like, just give me a good 4-bar loop. When we get the guitar player playing, we're like, okay, that's good. And we just cut that 4-bar loop and we use it through the whole thing. That's not the same as somebody playing down and you kind of get the nuance of them kind of doing small different things. And I think that's what we're missing a lot in music. So that's the recording side of it. True, to go back to the S and at least, you would need the old tools. A prime example of your point would be James Brown and Famous Flames. Absolutely, 100%. I think the way we make music, even the way we make music and the way we approach it is so different now, which is why I think it's hard for new artists to make classic records like they did back then now. I think that's, one of the, let's see. I feel like the shift to CCM makes sense with how music has changed in general. the Whitney Houston, Jodeci generation can appreciate like gospel music. But these people that's on Janae Aiko, Summer Walker, eventually the church music got to mellow out like their music had. Well, you gotta watch the beginning of the video though, because I feel like that happened because Kirk Franklin. You know what I'm saying? I do think that the music changed to a point, but not to a point where we should be taking our cues from CCM. Because like for me, that is like a prime example of the Kirk Franklin paradox, right? Because now black folks is singing basically white Christian rock music is the new gospel for us now. Because we don't have where we looking at, where we getting that influence from. So that's why I think it's still part of like the Kirk Franklin paradox, where black gospel artists stop pushing black gospel music forward, which in turn stop pushing black R&B forward. Unfortunately, so like I said, go back and watch the beginning of the video, and you'll understand. Because again, like I said, I think CCM is just like another leg of that spider in regards to what we were talking about this other time. And again, because like I said, and this is how I know. This is how I know that the generation still wants that. This generation still longs for that. This is to Sam's comment about like maybe you just or even you talking about maybe some get off my lawn shit. The reason I know that people still want that because you go to almost any award show, secular and gospel, the most lit shit be the old shit.
Yep.
And the new artists in the audience be going crazy over that old shit. So that shows you they're still a longing.
That's how come we're going crazy over verses. We still holding on to the stuff from the 90s where music, quote unquote, mattered.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I was talking to someone about this today. How old is Beyonce?
39. Or no, she should be 40 or 41 now.
I think she's 41, right? 40,
yeah. I think she's a year younger than me, I think.
So think about this. Beyonce right now is still the bar. When was the last time a 40-year-old woman was the bar for pop music?
Yeah.
Probably Aretha Franklin when she came out with Pink Cadillac.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like literally the bar for pop music, not just like R&B. No, literally the bar for pop music is a 40-year-old black woman. And as much as people say, they want shit to move to a different place, she's the one who now moves it forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, because after this album, you're going to hear a bunch of dance albums. You're going to hear a bunch of house albums. You're going to hear more soul albums. You know what I'm saying? We also got to add there hasn't been much innovative black gospel music in a decade. Watch the beginning of the video. Of course, I'll explain all that. Beyonce is the bar still. She's had a long run. Well, yeah, she's had a long run, but also I think because B works so hard, and because a lot of people don't realize this about Jay-Z, and this is why they're a good match. B and J are both really good at pushing the culture forward, like themselves. Literally, like Jay-Z album could move the culture forward, just his album. Beyonce album just heard could move the culture forward. I think they probably one of the few artists that has that kind of power musically, but I think it's because they know what the culture needs and they get there before everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like I think they're really smart about it, because if you go back and think about like the Black album when he did 99 Problems but a Bitch Ain't One, and everybody was going crazy. I'm like, this ain't nothing but a Beastie Boys record. But we hadn't heard a Beastie Boys record in probably 20 some years that sounded like that. So when he did it, it was like boom, just like now. She's doing like, CeCe Peniston type album. And so everybody like, it feels familiar, but it feels new. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's, again, that goes back to talking about how, and this is probably a whole different other conversation, but like the fact that Beyonce at 40 is the bar, and behind her is people still begging Rihanna to make an album, shows you that we as black folks on the creative side, we not breaking new artists. We not breaking, you know what I'm saying? We not breaking new artists that are that. We got some artists who coming out and they cool. They doing some cool stuff. They got some good records, you know what I'm saying? But like breaking artists that becoming superstars and megastars like Beyonce and Reed, we haven't done that in years. Beyonce, Rihanna, Usher, Chris Brown, because Chris Brown has even been around for what more than 10 years now.
Has her reached her peak? Is she like?
It's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. It's a good question. So I'll give you my take on her. I think her is phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
I think her is phenomenal on stage. I think her has, and I think Janelle Monáe had the same problem, but I think her has it to a bigger extent because her plays all those instruments. I think her hasn't made the album that matches her talent on stage.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, I think her needs a Purple Rain.
She needs that.
She needs that, like, what you see her do on stage, we need to hear that on record. You know what I'm saying? How do you feel, guys, feel about the way Silk Sonic was able to go back to that old sound? Well, I think it kind of proved my point, Lo. I think it proved my point that yes, people want that now. Like, and because there's a lack of that from our artists, it's like when you get it, it's thirsty. Like when you get it, people jumping on it because it's like, yo, this is what we want, this is what we need. Like we missing that, and I say that to say because again, you listen to their record, they did that old school style where they brought musicians in, they played those records all the way down. It wasn't loops. You know what I'm saying? Let me see, not breaking new artists or not recognizing that the new artists won't be mainstream per se. That's the difference in this generation. Nah, I think because I think superstars are superstars no matter where you put them, right? I think superstars gonna be like I think Beyonce is gonna be Beyonce no matter what. I feel like Rihanna was gonna be Rihanna no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Because certain people just have that it thing, right? And of course, we've seen some superstars, in this business who didn't get their fair shot and their fair chance. So, I'm not saying that every single time it happens, but I'm saying like even this generation should be breeding their own superstars, not just good artists. Because there are a lot of good artists, but we need some superstars. I agree, Dane. She hasn't had her defining album yet. She isn't as mainstream because she keeps her clothes on and makes genuine good music. Yeah, I don't think it's about. I don't think it's about keeping clothes on. I really think it's about musically. She just hasn't found that thing, that record yet. She just haven't hit that place yet. We not pushing out virtuoso artists no more. People aren't putting in 10,000 hours anymore. People are not interested in exploring their own sound. I say all this loosely, but they ain't hearing perfect practice makes perfect in music in class no more. Hey, no, that's a great point, and I can say that from working with new artists myself and seeing the difference between like when I worked with the artists that like the artists of today, and then when I had a chance to work with like say a Deborah Cox or a Gladys Knight or a Jamie Foxx or Gerald Levert. Like when I got to work with them, these are people who were already what you would say is not they peak, but they already big. But I still see them working as hard or harder than a new artist of today. Like I'm like, oh, they are famous, and they still working hard on their craft.
I mean, look how hard it took for Jasmine Sullivan to really be accepted.
And I think Jasmine's thing was the same. It's kind of similar to her, right? I think she needed to, and she finally did it. I think she had to find that record that matched her talent. You know what I'm saying? She had, and I think that goes to what Portia's saying too. Like a lot of artists, they just get on and doing records. They're not finding their sound. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's a big part of it too, Don. Not a lot of music classes. So because there's not a lot of music classes, like man, think about this. I was watching Ray Parker Jr.'s interview with R&B Money. Shout out to my boy Jay Valentine, who's the co-host of that with Tank. But he was talking about how him, Nathan Watts, and I forgot the drummer name, but they started a band when they were 6 years old. And all three of them, like they started a band and they were in band class together in elementary school. But all three of them dudes are like literally classic Motown musicians in their own right now because of being together in music class, and that's what starts. A lot of times, being in band class is how you start your own band, like we did, right? We met in band class. But now, if you don't have band class, where are your rock bands coming from? Like the Foo Fighters, who probably met in marching band at school or met in the band. You know what I'm saying? Like, where are those players coming from? Where are those people coming from that make that music? So there's a correlation there too to like how, you know, there's a lack of that. I was listening to L.A. Reid on a podcast today. He was saying that they thought Tia Marie was going to be bigger than Rihanna. They did, and I remember them pushing her super hard. And the whole time they was pushing her, a friend of mine, he worked at Def Jam. He like, she ain't the one. It's Rihanna. But Jay got a hold of her and was like, "Oh, this is what we gonna do." And a couple people on the team, The Dream, of course, gave her Umbrella, a record that was 5 years old that everybody turned down, and the rest is history. Also, the correlation of people leaving the church and the downfall of R&B and gospel. The church has always been an incubator of black talent. 100%. 100%. Because again, we wanted to go find a great singer for R&B. We was going to a bunch of churches. Mm-hmm. And then you even think about it, Don. That's why now somebody will hear in Adele and be like, "Oh, she's killer." And me, I'd be like, I know like a black girl in 50 churches that sound like Adele, probably sing Adele under the table. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, like I said, and I'm glad we're having this conversation, but there's a lot of tentacles to this conversation because all the stuff we saying, it kind of goes back to like the change in the Kirk Franklin era, right? Like it kind of touches on all of this in some form. But yeah, man, to get back to your question about her, because I really want to dive into that a little bit. I think she's immensely talented, and I think sometimes it's hard to find the right records for musicians. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to find like, hit records that are also musical enough. You know what I'm saying? But I think they got to do something like put her with some old school producers. Like she need to get with some old dudes so they can give her that old musical flavor. And then because she produces as well, she can put the new vibe into it.
Or you mean somebody old like Jimmy Jam and Babyface, like
that
type?
Yeah. She need to go do like a Jimmy Jam and Babyface type record where they can give her those like, because they are good at doing solid foundational records, right? Like the foundation of the record is very solid, and she can put that new school shit on top of it, especially down south. Name me an older producer, and I'm gonna show you a church influence and our band class. From Manny Fresh to Neptune. That's real. I think her is being held back creatively. I feel like she wants to wild out and hasn't been able to. I think that could be some of it, Melody. But like I said, as I listen to a lot of the records, I think some of it is her honing in on her sound because like one thing Prince was really good at was like Prince could make and speaking of like gospel records, if you listen to Let's Go Crazy by Prince, that's a gospel record. And I Would Die for You, he's talking about Jesus. That's another gospel record by Prince. But like he had a keen way of making pop records that were very, very musical. Like you think about I Want to Be Your Lover, that's the jam, right? But the musicality on that is crazy. You think about When Doves Cry. He's doing straight Richie Sambora type rock solos in the middle of that, like super musical. You know what I'm saying? Kiss. These big, huge pop records that are very musical, and I think they need to find a way to do that with her. They need to find a way to give her these big pop records that are still very musical, so when she performs them live, it matches. Because I'm like, yo, her energy. They haven't had records that match her live energy yet. And once they find those records that match her live energy, I think her has a chance to be out of here. Also, Kirk Franklin's influence is heavy with Tyler Perry. The correlation from Kirk to Tyler's plays empire is strong. That's very true. It's a lot. Like I said, it's a lot of tentacles to this thing. He said that the song "Good Girl Going Bad" was what made him see the star in her. He also signed Lady Gaga but dropped it because he didn't get her versatility. And that happens a lot. Now I think about it, all the folks with Tyler Perry was with Kirk Franklin. Yeah, it was because what's the dude who always played the deacon who dressed funny? You know,
you talking about Mr. Brown?
Yeah, Mr. Brown and his wife. They was like they used to sing with Kirk. I think they sing with John P. too. Could be wrong. Raspberry Beret was the Beatles song, right? When Dove's Cry didn't have a bass line. I don't know too many hits like that. Yeah, I think that's crazy. Yeah, David Mann. Thank you, brother. Yeah, David Mann. Like, so they did. They came from that. So it's like direct correlations to the Kirk Franklin and the family thing. David and Tamala. Yeah, and then she gave us a classic record. You know, she gave us a classic record with what's the name of that song? Take Me to the King.
There you
go. Yeah, Take Me to the King. Which
I was picturing the video on her crying and all that.
Yeah, that's a dope record too. I love that record. But that's to me like a soulful CCM record. Going back to what my niece was talking about, that's like a soulful CCM record. Yeah, man. So these are the things. Anybody who missed the beginning of the video, to see how we kind of got all the way to this, go back, watch the beginning of the video, so I could so you can understand what I'm talking about when I say the Kirk Franklin paradox.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and so you can understand that no, I'm not dissing Kirk Franklin. I'm not saying Kirk is trash. You know what I'm saying? But it's just my theory, my hypothesis of how things got the way it did and why R&B and gospel started moving in different directions. Like I said, I'm gonna try to get a couple preachers on here with me. The only time you can get that old gospel feeling is in the fire curtain. Ain't that deep? Yeah. I'm trying to get a couple preachers on me so we can have like a little round table about it, because I do think that also had affected, like we were talking about, now there's not really choirs, there's more or less praise teams. So I think that even affected the amount of people in church, because they're like, you got to really be a good singer to be in the choir now. So now like, that's driving people away. Like, I can't sing that good, but I enjoy worshiping. I enjoy singing in the choir. But now because I don't sing good enough, I can't even be in the choir. Like, I think that all plays a part in it. It all plays in effect. Even drummers bringing drum machines to the church now, so they can have like tracks under the drums, so it'll sound more like the radio. I like these rabbit hole conversations, man, and you would love talking to me because all my whole life is rabbit hole conversation. I feel like there's a formula by gatekeepers that's preventing the diversity. They won't listen if it doesn't have X, Y, Z. That's a piece of it for sure, man. That's a piece of it. But also, I want to be clear too. A lot of those gatekeepers they can't stop certain things though. A lot of those gatekeepers don't have access to stop somebody if they get big on their own on SoundCloud or on YouTube. So always keep that in mind too. Like, you can go find your own audience without the gatekeepers. It's all performance and polish versus actual praise. Exactly. Money too. Praise teams are on the payroll. Yeah. Choirs get paid like you just was in the choir. The praise teams, they get paid like musicians now. So that's a huge change in the whole thing. Of course, you're going to pay 4 people as opposed to 40. Thank you for joining me, Ant. I hope I explained that well.
It made perfect sense. I appreciate it because now I understand exactly what you were talking about. And now I'm more than likely, I'm going to wake up in the morning and listen to Kirk Franklin and then listen to some hip hop and be like, yep.
Good. Yeah, I just want people to get into it to understand what I'm saying. And I like having these conversations because I do want to, I don't want to have conversations just to sensationalize things, but I do want to try to come up with things for other people and other musicians to try to do to try to fill certain voids. I like Melodies from Heaven because it's a master class in sopranos, altos, and tenors. And Don, that's a choir's song, right? Like that's what I'm saying. So that's one of the records to me that's like, this is a gospel record. And even though that record felt contemporary, it still felt like a quintessential gospel record. And I think if he would have kind of kept it there, I think he would have kept pushing gospel forward if it was more like that. And again, we know how he's inspired to do certain things. I think it's because she is Beyonce, plus Beyonce branded herself. For example, Beyonce is the iPhone of music, meaning everyone loves Beyonce music no matter what the album sounds like. She's a megastar. Most women artists would not get the chance to become megastars because everyone always compares new artists to Beyonce. But Beyonce had to become that, right? Like, before Beyonce, there was Madonna. You know what I mean? Like, there's always that. Like, before Madonna, there's always like a super mega star. But I think Beyonce has probably held the super mega star title longer than anybody I've seen. This thing is gonna come up for retire. I was late. This is awesome. I'm going to deep dive into how gatekeepers get a hold of folks. There's so many that are overlooked. I heard. Hold up, Dane. You didn't like that Kirk Franklin Little Baby Space Jam song? Actually, I did. I like that song a lot. I actually like that song a lot. But again, that song contributes to what I'm talking about too. Like that song is more my more evidence of my paradox, right? But I really like that Kirk Franklin Baby song. I thought it was dope. I thought it was a good crossing of the genres too. Funny because Kirk was not considered real gospel when he came out. He wasn't. But even though he wasn't considered real gospel, he became like the biggest. And he became basically the pop star of gospel. Something that changed. Diana Ross. Damn, you're right. So it was Beyonce, Madonna, Diana. And that's kind of it for the megastars in our lifetime. Like the female megastars in our lifetime. You could throw Aretha in there because she had some moments. Because like Aretha was really kind of huge at age when she was on record with David Bowie. But you know, like I said, and Diana held the bar till the 50s. Like Diana was in her 50s when she finally was like, all right, I'm out. That's what I said earlier. Kirk come in when the game was moving from gospel to inspirational music. Yes, Diana and Tina set the bar just like Aretha. I was a big A. Marie fan. I love her voice, style, and music. I love A. Marie too. Like I really, really, really loved her first album, and I loved her production. But I think two things. Rich Harrison produced her first album, Tequila, and then Rich Harrison gave Beyonce Crazy in Love, which basically she kind of took A. Marie's sound and did it better. And then J-Lo got another one with Get Right, which was like an A. Marie type song. You know what I mean? So I think A. Marie's style got taken and she wasn't, I don't want to say talented enough. I don't think she was vocally strong enough to overcome all those hits. Whitney, we talked about Whitney, Portia. Whitney was part of that BDCC conversation. Dave finna have me find all the choir-based hip-hop songs tonight. I'm gonna do some. Hey man, good. Like that's why we had these conversations. I want all y'all getting up, listening, going through Kirk Franklin's catalog tomorrow, and then listening back. And when you do it, go look on the chart because this is what I did too. Go look on the charts from when he dropped in '98 to 2006, and look at how gospel and R&B changed from '98 to 2006. Beyonce makes a lot of Diana Ross moves. She did A. Marie the same way Diana did Sylvester. Hey, Beyonce does make a lot of Diana Ross moves. I think that's why she's in that Diana Ross place. Don't start me on the A. Marie Beyonce thing. My homie produced on that Crazy Love song, a lot of politics. Hey, bro, trust me, I already know a whole lot of politics. My boy Focus did a record on there. Yeah, I'll leave that alone. Rich Harrison, Rodney Jerkins, Teddy Riley, Missy, all producers behind artist sounds. Those collabs are needed. Absolutely, Melody. And I think people have forgotten how important having one producer do your whole project could be, right? Because now you have artists going to all the big producers get like one record from them, and it's not really like a cohesive sound. But back then, you have like, you know, like even that Khalees record. Like let's talk about the Kaleidoscope record. With Neptunes did the whole record, and it sounds like a movie. Like that album is incredible. And you think about A. Marie with Rich Harrison or Rodney Jerkins with that Brandy album, and Teddy Riley damn with any full album he does. And Missy is, look, there's no contemporary for Missy. I think Missy goes very underrated because I think she should be mentioned with super producers like Dr. Dre and Timberland. Honestly, it's the what's that? The enmeshment. Using words I don't know. You start using big words I don't know. It's being disrespectful. It's the enmeshment that's key. Like Alicia had Crucial, she and her sound changed when they split. Absolutely, yeah. Like that's a big part of it. And again, like I said, man, go back and if you didn't get to watch the beginning of the video, go back and watch the beginning, and you'll see how this all unfolds into like all these different tentacles and all these different things. But again, shout out to Kirk. I think Kirk is dope. I think he's super talented. I think he's made amazing music. I just think what he did literally changed the course of gospel history, which in turn changed the course of R&B music history. All right, y'all. The Khalees album is incredible. incredibly great, and owned by the Neptunes. Yeah, I think they need to get off that. I think they need to do right by her, man. I think they need to do right by her on her publishing. But also, I wasn't there, so I don't know what deal they struck, and I don't know what happened. So I'm gonna stay out of that. I don't know how it went down. Um, and I will just say, just from what I know, like I've never known Pharrell to be like the dirty dude to take people publishing stuff. So, like, that's not one of the things I heard in the business about him. So I want to know what actually happened for that to be like the thing that he did. I'll leave the police stuff alone.
Wasn't she with Nas at that point?
No,
he wasn't with Nas?
No, she was actually Pharrell's girlfriend first. When she signed her deal, she was Pharrell's girlfriend.
When that song was released, she was with Pharrell?
Well, I Hate You So Much Right Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Milkshake?
No, by Milkshake, I think that's when she got with Diamond.
And that's the song that was used on Beyonce, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's ask Nas what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I wonder what happened because she said they just told her from her side. She said they just told her some contract, and she said she ended up giving them 100% of her public income. So I don't know. I'm gonna leave that alone because I wasn't there. Oh, and before we go, y'all, just a note from me to y'all. The police issue is more of a Jake than she was triggered. Let her emotions mess up the bag. Hey, you know some shit. I'm gonna leave that alone. You know some shit that I know, and I'm gonna leave that alone. If y'all get a chance, because I've been doing it since Saturday, just go through and listen to Stevie Wonder's catalog, man. Like, try to go through and listen to every album all the way through. Don't skip around. Try to, go through every album and listen. If you want to hear incredible musicianship, if you want to hear incredible songwriting, if you want to hear a catalog that goes through damn near every genre in one album, go through and listen through Stevie's catalog and some, of course, everybody knows Songs in the Kid, like everybody knows that. But if y'all get a chance, check out Secret Life of Plants, which was a soundtrack to a documentary about plants, and this thing literally made an amazing classic album about fucking plants. Like that's how dope Stevie is. And then the I Was Made to Love Her album when he was young, with James Jamerson, and you had the Funk Brothers from Motown playing on those records. Go listen to that just for like a clinic in musicianship. You know what I'm saying? Great music, feel good music, and if you want to be inspired, musically, Melly said I've been on Stevie for a few weeks. I Was Made to Love Her and Visions overwhelming. No, it's really a lot, and I do it every few years. Like I just go through and listen to like. There's a time I'll have a Stevie era where I'm listening to all Stevie. I'll be listening to all Michael Jackson from when he was a kid up to maybe the Bad era, usually ending with Butterflies. Prince, up to the Purple Rain album, like his catalog, all of that. Hey man, just really, really, really good music and a rich tapestry of musicianship. At first, I only loved Kirk Franklin's old school albums until I attended Kirk Franklin and Maverick City concert. Man, I had to give Kirk his credit. That concert was awesome. His show has always been incredible. And for a church feeling, Curtis Mayfield, Claudine soundtrack. Hey, bro, that's one of my dad's favorite albums of all time. That Claudine soundtrack. He hit me to that when I was a kid. That's a good one. Don. We Can Work It Out is my shit. Yeah. And Rhonda, you know about all those records. You know what I'm saying? Without Stevie, there wouldn't have been a Prince. Well, honestly, without Stevie, there would have been a Michael Jackson too, Marvin. Like, if you listen to a lot of those Stevie records, he's doing shit that Michael Jackson did years later, like the sound effects. Stevie's doing that way before Mike started, and I heard Mike used to just be in the studio with Stevie when they was at Motown, and there's a lot of stuff that you hear that Mike was taking from Stevie, that Stevie did like on one or two records that Mike like took it and made it like his signature. Stevie is the bar. Stevie is and always will be the bar. I think that's probably the one nigga who nobody can fuck with in the verses. Like the one nigga on the planet that there is no verses for Stevie Wonder. It's not. Yeah, without Rick James, there would be no Prince because Rick James put him on his first big tour too, and kind of helped him from superstar. All right, y'all. Y'all got anything else before we go?
They got a lot to keep comedy.
Yeah. Hey man, this is dope though. I promise I didn't expect it to be this.
Yeah, you need to host a weekly show about music.
Right?
Everybody has their own individual take on something music related. So
That's true. And you know what? Music is the one thing that it gets the people talking, but it's an argument or in a different way. You know what I mean? It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable to have all these different opinions.
Yep.
It's enjoyable to go through and read these comments.
Yeah, because now they about to get on Donnie Hathaway, and I know for a fact LaRonda about to comment because she loves Donnie. Like we watched multiple documentaries on him, and that man was amazing. Him and Sam Cooke, dog.
Yo, Sam Cooke's story, Donnie Hathaway, and
crazy, dude. That Sam Cooke, I think it was on Netflix documentary about his death. Crazy.
Super crazy. Like some movie shit, bro. And then the Bobby Womack shit. You see, like the Bobby Womack shit,
bruh. That.
Like, yo, it's wild. Them old dudes, them old cats was wild, man. I've been searching and I want to know why Stevie and Donnie never collaborated. I know. I think that would have been. And it's funny too, because when I heard "You Are the Sunshine of My Life" when I was a kid, I thought that was Donnie on the first verse, but it's actually one of Stevie's background singers on the first verse. But he sounds a lot like Donnie Hathaway. I also need to find those Mass Choir albums. Hey, a lot are out of print. Bro, I went on YouTube. I went into when I first was starting talking about my Kirk Franklin hypothesis, I went to a rabbit hole, bro, about all the old choir records. Like I said, the Walter Hawkins, the James Cleveland, Tim Brown. Man, there's so many. Who else? Walter Hawkins, James Cleveland, Tim Brown, Andre Crouch, Rance Allen, like all them. Hey man, you go back and you're gonna be up all night on YouTube. Like, oh, I forgot about this record. I forgot about it. I guess it's literally gonna take you back to your whole childhood. Kirk is the R. Kelly of gospel. Think so? Songwriting wise, probably, yeah. Because he ain't mixed for a long time. Fingerprints in Long Beach has a full section.
Kirk is the R. Kelly of gospel. Where are we going with that?
David, Ant want to know where you going with that. What you mean by that?
That's a I'm gonna log off on that one. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. It looked like we about to go down.
Malaco Records had a lot back in the day. Stax Records, yeah. Malaco, like almost any gospel vinyl my dad or my granddad had, I would see that Malaco logo on it. That's, to me, when you see that logo, you be like, oh, you know this is gonna be a good record. And you know what? That's another thing. I miss when you just see the logo from the label and you knew it's gonna be a good record. Remember when you saw Epic and you was like, oh, this shit about to jam just because it got that Epic on the vinyl? Damn, I miss that, man. Or even shit Death Row. Like when you saw that Death Row symbol, it meant something. You saw that Bad Boy record, it meant something. Oh, there you go. Hezekiah Walker. Yeah, absolutely. His pen is Hezekiah Walker, Fred Hammond, Commission, all them guys, Bo Williams, Clark Sisters. Look, I could go on and on. He said, and you know what I'm saying? Kirk found the lane and he dominated.
Okay, I didn't know where we were going with that. When you mentioned R. Kelly, like, as of today, there's only one area we could think of. Like, yeah, we can't mention his music at all anymore. They say
Marvin Gilbert, Cash Money. Yep. Cash Money. Like when you saw that logo, I'm telling you that even look, it's funny because back when they was out, I did not like No Limit. Now I miss No Limit. Shit that you did now.
I love No Limit, dog. I got an entire No Limit playlist on my phone on Tidal, dog. LaRonda hates it, bro. Hates it.
Hey, bro. There's like
my kids hate it.
There was like 3 No Limit records. There's like 3 No Limit records that I like songs. And that was Na Na Na.
Part 1 and 2?
Yeah, I like both.
Okay.
Other than Ice Cream Man, because it had the old
Okay.
World Class Record Crew sample. There was one more, because there's literally like three. Like, it's literally like, the mystical stuff on that.
I give you like 18 No Limit songs off the top of my head that I play faithfully. You give me some tequila, I will have a whole concert for your ass.
No,
I
sir.
be Fiend, Mama X, or Mia X, Mystical, Snoop, Silk.
Let's just
I'll
say
be
this:
everybody, bro.
the label production and artist collaborations are the ones that left the lasting impression on us. Agreed. Dang, start a label. Hey, Melody, I tried. These artists don't want to work. I'm just gonna be honest with you. These artists just don't want to. No Limit was domination over saturation. They was. They just like, hey, we put out 3 albums a week.
A week,
Some
bro.
gonna hit.
A week.
Some gonna hit.
And everything hit for like 2 years.
Something gonna
Everything
hit.
hit for 2 years.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, Mia X was my favorite rapper out of No Limit.
Mia X was the best, followed by Fiend, C Murder. I don't Silk just had to be in there because he was a brother, but he had no business rapping.
Yeah, I want to fight Silk. Every time Silk got on work, I want to fight that nigga. Like, what? He's original Blueface. Why you can't find the beat?
I was waiting to say that. Exactly.
Why you can't find the beat?
Bro, you feel retarded after doing their songs. All right, we're going to go because we're going to have to go into a whole label versus label debate.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to come back and do another one of those. Like, we have to come back and go through label histories and their influences.
A label versus.
Yeah. Silk's collab with Mike. That's the only time that nigga sounded good.
Moving on.
That's the only one song in his whole career.
But he was still a little off on that song because it was one
he
part.
Was very off, but it worked.
He just
was
went
off, but it worked.
Yeah. But it worked on that one song.
Moby Dick, damn, I forgot about him.
Cain and Abel, yeah, bro. Like, I could go on and on about No Limit.
Yeah. No Limit has so many artists, bro. I remember opening up the jacket sleeve. They like coming next week. It was like 10 albums. Like what the hell?
Hey, No Limit was dope. And then they moved to the 504 Boys to try to flip it for the 2000 crowd. And yeah, man.
That's when they started trying to compete with Cash Money.
Yep.
What happened was Cash Money took their formula and made them.
They were younger. They were
not just younger, but they made their music much more quality.
Yeah.
Musically, production-wise, just like I'm like, yo, they was like, I remember like Manny Fresh, and I was like, yo, this dude is a musician. You know what I'm saying?
If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember if Cash Money turned down No Limit or if No Limit turned down Cash Money via the documentary that came on BET.
No, Cash Money turned down No Limit.
They turned them down,
yeah,
right?
we don't want to beat y'all.
Because he was like, we both from New Orleans. Like, he was hearing about them, and yeah, Cash Money was like, we good, bro.
Yeah. As for music quality, beats by the pound. Yeah. When they had Beats by the Pound, that was probably about the best. When Beats by the Pound did that Snoop album, I think that was their best production.
Nah, Silk was trash.
No, Silk was absolutely trash.
You could go double platinum. I mean, you got to understand, everybody was in love with No Limit at that time, so you was buying anybody's CD on No Limit because you wanted to hear Mystical on this song. You wanted to hear C Murder on this. So, but Silk was trash, bro.
The brand was strong. I'll say that.
Very strong.
The brand was strong. But
what was it? 97 to 2000, pretty much?
Yeah. 96.
96?
Yep, 96. Ice Cream Man dropped it, I think, in 96.
See, Silk was fine to Melody. I just remember Silk being like what, 6'6", 6'7" or something, and
yep,
should have been playing basketball with P and M. Yeah.
We're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to come back and do some. Hey, y'all. Even after the show is off, just leave some stuff in the comments that y'all want to talk about. We'll come back and do another show maybe next week.
Yeah.
96 to 2075 million sold. That ain't bad
at all. Out of the trunk of their cars.
That ain't. Hey, one thing, even if I didn't like the music, one thing I will always respect Master P for what he did. Because he was definitely a game changer.
Yep.
For what he did and the way he did it. All right, we're gonna get out of here, y'all. Like I said, leave comments, shit. I guess we'll talk about some more music shit next time. Let me know what y'all want to talk about, and we'll just hop back on and do it like this, real casual, man. This shit's been fun. All right, y'all.